Walters is the place to be this time of year, across the street from Nationals Park and near Audi Field. Open daily from 11 a.m. until 2 a.m., and on the weekends, closing time is at 3 a.m.
Amazing deals for every day of summer are at Nordstrom Rack stores now, and they're up to 60% off.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
I always find something amazing.
Because the best deals go fast.
Save big on Marc Jacobs, Madewell, Steve Madden, and more. Plus, buy it online and pick it up in store the same day for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
Swinging a line drive into left center. Going to be another hit for Herrera. Heading for third, Arenado being waved home. He'll score. Throw going towards second. Garcia the tag on Herrera, and he's safe. He gets a double. A run batted in, scoring Arenado from second. Contreras over to third with nobody out. A run home in the fifth. And the Cardinals added their lead. It's now St. Louis 5 and Washington nothing. Here's the wind. Here's the pitch. And a swing and a pop-up. Left side, shallow left. Shortstop Wynn calling. Makes the catch. And Erick Fedde has done it. He has tossed what is so rare these days in baseball, a complete game, but not only a complete game shutout. He gets a big, big hug from his catcher, Pedro Pages. In fact, lifted Fedde off the ground with that hug. The former National comes into Nationals Park and beats his old club and really made it look pretty easy tonight.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who was at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Did you see the recent news about Mason Denneberg? The Nats took starting pitcher Mason Denneberg out of a Florida high school with the number 27 overall pick in the 2018 MLB draft. He did not work out, in part due to injury, and he on Thursday afternoon announced that he was retiring from professional baseball and joining the University of Central Florida as a punter. Good for him. Another starting pitcher who the Nats took in the first round of an MLB draft who did not work out for the Nats is Erick Fedde. He, on Friday evening, tossed a 6-hit shutout of the Nats. Where the heck was that when he was with the Nats? A 10-0 loss to the St. Louis Cardinals at Nationals Park on Friday evening in Game 1 of a 3-game series. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 17-22. This installment of Nats Chat is brought to us by Table to Mat, which you can count on for all of your nutrition and personal training needs. Table to Mat offers virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. You can email Table to Mat directly through the website table2mat.com. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com. You can call Table to Mat 240-388-2206. We on Friday evening had Nats starting pitcher Mitchell Parker being bad for a third consecutive start. What is happening with him is concerning. We'll get to that. Also, we late night on Friday night had the Nats announcing that they had requested unconditional release waivers on reliever Lucas Sims. But Mark, quite a last few days for failed first-round starting pitchers for the Nats. Mason Denneberg now is a punter for UCF, and Erick Fedde on Friday evening shut out the Nats.
Where are Carter Kieboom and Seth Romero when you need them? The 2 first-round picks between Erick Fedde and Mason Denneberg, and none of those 4 really have worked out. Arguably, Fedde, I think, by far had the most success of any of them, including for the Nationals, although he's having more success since leaving the Nationals than he had here. And, I mean, here's the stat. There's a lot we can point to here, but I think this is the most telling one. This wasn't just his first career shutout. I mean, it was. But in his career, he's now only gone 7 scoreless innings 4 times in his career. He did it twice for the Nationals in 2021. That was that stretch that he looked like he had finally turned a corner, and we were getting excited about it. And then he got hurt, and it never worked out for him again. So he did it twice for the Nationals. He's now done it twice since leaving the Nationals, both times against the Nationals. He did it for the White Sox last year in May against the Nats, 7 scoreless. And this time he takes it even farther and goes 9 scoreless for his first career shutout as a member of the Cardinals. I mean, you draw up a worst case scenario for how a baseball game could go. Not just the result, but how it played out, who was involved, all the details of it. I'd be hard-pressed to think of a worse, frankly, more embarrassing loss than this one was for the Nationals.
This was a rough one. 10-0 is the final. The Nats in this game, no runs, a mere 6 hits, no walks. The 6 hits were a double and 5 singles. The Nats went 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. And yeah, Erick Fedde was lights out. 6-hit shutout, 8 strikeouts, no walks. And, you think about Fedde. I mean, we spent a lot of the early years of this podcast talking Erick Fedde, right? Number 18 overall pick in the 2014 MLB draft out of UNLV. He pitched for the Nats at the major league level over 6 regular seasons, 2017 through 2022. The sample size grew to be quite large, 454 and a third innings, 102 games, including 88 starts. That's a good chunk of a sample size. His ERA over that time, 5.41. His ERA plus over that time, 77. If you're unfamiliar with ERA plus, 100 is average. Above 100 is good. Below 100 is bad. His ERA plus, 77 bad. His whip over that time, 1.52. The Nats in November 2022 non-tendered Erick Fedde as an arbitration-eligible player, and most people didn't think twice about that. He goes on to pitch in South Korea, is lights out. That would be in the 2023 season. He since has returned to the majors, and he has been a much different pitcher. This success for Erick Fedde post his time with the Nats, was this achievable with the Nats in your opinion, or did he have to leave the Nats in order to become the pitcher he has become since being with the Nats?
I believe he had to leave the Nats to become this. He would say the same thing from talking to him last year, that going over to Korea and being in a very different situation where he's fighting for his career now. At this point, let's be clear. He went there because no other team in America was offering him a contract after the Nationals non-tendered him. He goes there, realizes this is my last hope. And he does, both in terms of his pitch repertoire and also his mindset, does a 180. And he said that going over there and taking more ownership of being the guy who's supposed to lead a staff, who is supposed to be thinking about going 7 innings, as opposed to just being satisfied going 5 like he did here. And not that the Nats, only encouraged him to go 5. It's not that. But he was the 5th or 6th or even 7th starter on a rotation that had Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, Gio Gonzalez, good Patrick Corbin, et cetera, and never was really viewed as the guy who had any pressure on him or who needed to be good, despite the fact that he was a first-round pick. And so I think he felt like going over to Korea allowed him to change that mindset as well as do some different things with his pitch repertoire. Got the 2-year contract from the White Sox, was lights out for them, gets traded to the Cardinals. Now, let's be clear, had not been that dominant for the Cardinals so far. A few good starts in there. Hadn't been great for them. Obviously was great on this night, and I'm sure, as he said, that he holds no ill will towards the Nationals, but you're always a little motivated facing your former team and want to show them, what they could have had, even though there's nobody who can claim the Nats did not give him enough opportunity here. They did. He never figured it out. Could they have coached him better? Maybe. But I really do believe, and I think he believes the same, that it just wasn't going to happen here, that he needed the change of scenery and a complete change of mindset to turn his career around.
It's crazy because you look at what he's done, and he's been so much better since he left this team. And I'm always reluctant to go down the path of, well, he just needed a change of scenery, because I think that's often excuse making. Like, I think as an organization, you always need to be introspective and say, okay, what could we have done better here? Where did we potentially fail this player? But yeah, the sample size with Fedde was large. And to the Nats' credit, in recent years, we have seen them have success, develop pitchers. Mackenzie Gore, Jake Irvin. I still would throw Mitchell Parker into that mix. DJ Herz last season, Josiah Gray. We forget about him sometimes. So, this idea that the Nats have no clue what they're doing with starting pitchers, I think that has started to change in recent years. So I do think that it is quite possible that Fedde just needed that change of scenery. But man, it does sting. And, you see him be this better since leaving the team. It's hard to ignore that. And it's hard not to wonder, golly gee, where was this when he was here? Why couldn't this have happened while he was here? And, I mentioned the Mason Denneberg thing, and we've talked about this before, but the run of failed first-round starting pitchers for the Nats, starting with Fedde in 2014, Seth Romero 2017, Mason Denneberg 2018, Jackson Rutledge 2019, Cade Cavalli 2020. That is quite a run right there. I didn't even mention Dane Dunning, but Dane Dunning at least was part of a trade. Man, if just one of those guys works out the way he is supposed to work out, think about how different things might be now. But like one after the other did not work out. And it does say so much that out of all of those guys, you would say that Erick Fedde actually worked out the best because the Nats at least got some mileage out of him at the major league level. They have gotten no such mileage out of any of those other guys at the major league level in terms of starting pitching.
Yeah, Rutledge maybe now has a shot as a reliever. We'll see. Cavalli, fingers crossed, it can still happen for him. Although, one other little note from the night, he was supposed to make his rehab start at Rochester after a 10-day break. They got rained out, so nothing went right for the Nationals tonight. As far as Fedde, here's one thing I will say, and we've brought this up before, where I don't think the Nationals did him any favors. There was that stretch there that he was the guy going up and down AAA to the big leagues or in the big leagues from the rotation to the bullpen. They couldn't really commit to him in one spot in the rotation. Now, a lot of that was a function of where the team was at that point, where they had, like I said, all those other really good starters. And so he was often the sixth guy who would just fill in when somebody else wasn't available. But I do think there was a point there that they could have treated him in a way that was better for his development, and maybe the up and down, back and forth starter reliever, AAA, all that potentially hurt him and never let him get into any kind of groove. Now, it got to a point where he did get plenty of starts once the rebuild began, basically 2021 and 2022, and he did not seize those opportunities at all, aside from, a little hot stretch here or there. So I do put it more on him than on them, but I think that's the one thing I look back on and say, okay, they could have put him in a little better position early in his career to have more consistent success.
They could have, and I brought that up the other day regarding Brad Lord. I don't want to see what happened with Fedde happen to Lord. At the same time, to provide a rebuttal to what we just agreed on there, I do think there is something to those who can do. And even if you're getting toggled between starter reliever, even if you're being shuffled between majors and minors, at some point, just pitch well. At some point, you're a first-round pick. You're supposed to be able to get outs, accumulate innings. And Fedde just never did that with any kind of consistency for the Nats. But since leaving the Nats, bit of a different story. And not to rub salt in the wound, but you mentioned Patrick Corbin. Are you aware of what Patrick Corbin is doing for the Texas Rangers? Another good outing on Friday night, 2 runs in 7 innings. The sample size is not large, and the whip for Patrick Corbin is rather large. So, this may be one of these funny money good starts to a regular season that ends up unraveling. But Patrick Corbin now, 6 starts, ERA of 3.13 for the Texas Rangers. Think about that. We'll see if it continues.
So I was talking about this with somebody a couple of days ago, and we were trying to figure out what has changed. What is he doing? Because if you look at his stat line, other than the ERA, everything else is almost identical to what he was last year and the last couple of years with the Nats. The whip, almost identical, 1.5. Hits per 9, over 10. Home runs is about the same. Walks is almost the same. Strikeouts are actually down a little bit. So we were trying to figure this out, like what is different? How is he having success? And the 2 things we came up with are, number 1, better defense behind him. And number 2, and this is a sneaky one that I hadn't really thought of, his relievers are inheriting his runners and not letting them score, whereas the Nats relievers consistently let his inherited runners score on him, and that affects your ERA despite what the other numbers may say. So this may be a product of what's around him more than him himself, and it probably suggests what I think we kind of sensed there for a while, which was he wasn't as bad as the numbers suggested, that he was hurt by bad defense, and it always seemed like strange things would go on behind him. Not to suggest that he was good for those several years, but he probably wasn't quite as bad as he looked. So I think there's that for one thing. And when you put better defense behind you and a better bullpen behind you, it does make a difference. And so I'll be very interested to see how this goes for him the rest of the way. Can he keep this up, or are those numbers going to come back in the end and prove that he's not as good as he appears to be right now? I would guess there's probably some of that going on.
Yeah, I would subscribe to the latter. The peripherals are not good. I mean, his strikeouts per 9 innings is a mere 568. His walks per 9 innings is 341. I think the carriage is going to turn back into a pumpkin. But so far, so good for Patrick Corbin with the Rangers. How about that? Friday night, Erick Fedde shuts out the Nats, and Patrick Corbin, another gem for the Texas Rangers.
Swing for the fences this summer and hire Table to Mat for all your nutrition and personal training needs. Being healthy and having fun do not have to be mutually exclusive. Table to Mat specializes in making healthy lifestyles enjoyable and sustainable. Are you experiencing headaches, stomach discomfort, or want to lose weight? Find out how your food choices and exercise impact how you feel physically and mentally. We offer virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. With over a decade working in our fields, we bring experience and passion to help you be the best version of yourself. Check us out at tabletomat.com, calling us at 240-388-2206, or emailing us at laura@tabletomat.com for more info. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com.
Hey Nats fans, you know me as Tim Newmark, the guy who wrote the Nats Chat theme song. You may not know that 2025 is the 10th anniversary of the release of my personal favorite album, Galaxy. Check it out on your favorite streaming platforms today.
Life as a small business owner. Everything is your problem, and there aren't enough hours in the day. That's where LinkedIn Jobs, and by proxy Nats Chat, are here to help. For those crucial hires that you absolutely can't whiff on, turn to LinkedIn Jobs. Simply post your job, and LinkedIn will take it from there, making sure it gets in front of the properly qualified candidates who are searching themselves. Find out why more than 2.5 million small business owners have turned to LinkedIn Jobs to grow their staff. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/natschat. That's linkedin.com/natschat to post your jobs for free. linkedin.com/natschat. Terms and conditions apply.
Parker sets, bases loaded, 1 out. Swinging a ground ball, fair past the third baseman Rosario, hits the angled wall and rolls toward the foul line. 2 runs will score. Over to third. On the play is Arenado, and in at second with a double, and 2 runs batted in is Contreras as he rips a sharp one-hopper past Rosario to his backhand toward the line. Had no chance. It scores Newt Barr and win, and the Cardinals lead 2-0.
Well, the Erick Fedde item gets the headline from the Nats' 10-0 loss to the Cardinals on Friday evening. But in a lot of ways, the most significant Nats item from this game was what happened with Mitchell Parker. He was bad for a 3rd consecutive start. He allowed 4 runs in 4 innings. He gave up 7 hits, which were 3 doubles and 4 singles. He issued 2 walks into wild pitch. He did record 5 strikeouts, but he over his 4 innings threw 96 pitches. Think about that, 96 pitches over 4 innings, 59 strikes, 37 balls. The outing began in rather disturbing fashion. Parker, in the top of the first, allowed 2 runs. He began the game by issuing back-to-back walks of Lars Nootbaar and Mason Wynn on a total of just 9 pitches. Then gave up a one-out single by Nolan Arenado to left field to conclude a 10-pitch plate appearance in which Arenado was down in the count at 1.02. And Parker then gave up a one-out, bases-loaded first pitch 2-run double by Wilson Contreras down the left field line for a 2-0 Cardinals lead. Now, Parker did get plagued by some bad defense. Really bad moment for left fielder James Wood.
Outfield toward left, room in right center for Donovan. Here's the 0-1. Swinging a line drive left field, chasing toward the corner is Wood on the go, angling, reaches down, can't get it. The ball by him and rolling to the fence at the 3:36 mark. Donovan rounding second, slams on the brakes and holds on with a double.
Parker in a one-run third for the Cardinals gave up a leadoff opposite field double by Brendan Donovan to left field on a lazy fly ball on which James Wood failed to make a running backhanded catch. I mean, this was a pretty routine play, maybe not super easy, but easy enough. The ball had an expected batting average of just .220 per StatCast. But even with that, Parker was not good. And you look at how well he had been doing versus now what he is doing. He did what he did on Friday evening. His previous start, 6-1 loss at the Cincinnati Reds. The previous Friday night, May 2nd, Parker in that game, 5 runs in 4 innings. And his start prior to that, the Nats' 8-7 walk-off win over the New York Mets at Nationals Park on April 27th. Parker in that game, 7 runs, 6 earned in 5 innings. 3 straight bad starts for Mitchell Parker off such a wonderful start to his regular season.
Let me start with this, that felt like on a night that Mitchell Parker pitched like Erick Fedde from 2022. Erick Fedde pitched like Doug Fister from 2014. The dichotomy there was pretty remarkable because 96 pitches in 4 innings. I feel like we saw that once or twice from Mr. Fedde when he was here. So that stood out to me. But it's the walks, and it's especially in the first inning. And you take these last 3 starts, and he has now issued 8 walks in the first inning alone, and 7 of those 8 have come around to score. That's the story right there. Coming out of the gate, not able to throw strikes. He threw 9 of his first 10 pitches were balls in this game. Gets a mound visit real quick. Now, to his credit, he started throwing strikes after that, but he was also hit and hit pretty hard, and never did find it. It's not like it was one bad inning and then he salvaged it. He was not good at all during his 4 innings out there. And this is a problem. It is a concern. You know, he said he worked on it between starts, but I start to worry now. We know about his issues fielding. It hasn't really come up as much this year. We know it was a problem last year. I wonder if when you get out there and it's in your head that you're struggling to throw strikes, especially right out of the chute in the first inning, that can consume you and take over. And all of a sudden, it becomes a real problem to get the ball over the plate. He's got some major work to do. And I don't know that it's all mechanics or physical. It might be mental work to do between now and his next start, which will come in 5 days, according to Davey Martinez. He's got to come out and throw strikes in the first inning and set a much better tone than he has in any of these last 3.
It's crazy because it's not just that he was doing pretty well. He was doing very well. He was number 1 in the majors in pitcher WAR per Baseball Reference. We talked about that, and it has all fallen apart here over these last 3 starts. And, you know, there's something apropos about this outing coming against Erick Fedde because it was Fedde who a few years ago got off to a great start and then unraveled. And, you know, actually, I was thinking about this. Every year that we've done this podcast, there has been a Nat starting pitcher who got off to a really good start and then the season fell off a cliff. 2021 was John Lester. 2022 was Erick Fedde. 2023 was Trevor Williams. Last year was Jake Irvin. And now this year, it may be Mitchell Parker, the guy who for the first 5 to 10 starts is lights out or just surprisingly good. Like, remember Lester in 2021 was surprisingly good, although we kept saying, boy, he's walking a fine line, putting all these guys on base. And then sure enough, it all came apart. Although Mike Rizzo did turn Lester in his 5+ ERA into Lane Thomas. But here we are this year, and you have Mitchell Parker, who had, remember, a sub-2 ERA. And now these last 3 starts, it's like there has been this massive market correction with the guy. And you just hope that somehow he can get back on track here. But the walks are disturbing. And the funny thing, too, with the walks is, so in the minors, he had a problem with walks. He, since coming to the majors, had not had the problem with the walks. He kind of felt like maybe that had been fixed. But now these last 3 starts, we're seeing the walk very much be a problem.
And just look at the strike zone plot for him, especially from that first inning. It wasn't like he was consistently missing in one spot. He was all over the place with it. And that's why I said, I don't know that it's really about mechanics. I think this was about mindset. And once it starts going down the wrong path, him not being able to get it back. Now, again, he did in terms of throwing strikes after those first few batters, but it was not effective strikes. And he kind of abandoned the fastball there for a while. He came back to it eventually. In the bigger picture, I want to believe that what we saw from him that first month was probably better than he really is. But I also want to believe these last 3 starts are worse than he really is. I think he falls somewhere in between. Nobody was touting him as a ace pitcher for this team. It was great to see him do that, but I don't think anybody truly believed that's who he was. I don't know that we believe that he is this guy either. We've seen enough of him over the last year plus to think that as long as he does keep the ball around the zone, he does have some ability to be, a big league pitcher. So, like I said, he's going to continue to get the opportunity. There's no off days coming up, so they're not skipping any starts. They're not making any moves there. He'll pitch again in 5 days, but he does have to come back and right this ship. And I said specifically the first inning. It feels like if he could just put up a 0 in the first inning and keep the pitch count down, that will correct everything and mentally be able to come right back out and have a good night.
Jake Irvin has had the same issue. The first inning has been the real problem this year. I think also, too, we recognize with starting pitchers, young ones certainly, progression isn't always linear, right? So it's like you can be good for a little bit, then bad for a little bit, then maybe good for a little bit again. So you just want that overall graph to be trending upward with the recognition that there will be some pockets of struggle. And right now, Mitchell Parker certainly is in the midst of one of those.
Tim Shover's here to tell you about Babbel. Did you know that the Nats are on the Spanish radio airwaves for the second consecutive season?
Ildemar, un batazo altísimo. La bola se va. Atrás, se da dinero, atrás. Se fue la fruta. Joey Gallo.
If you want to know what Luciano and Gustavo are saying on the broadcast on calls such as this one, then check out Babbel. And here's their special offer for Nats Chat listeners. 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/NatsChat. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/NatsChat. That's spelled BABBEL.com/NatsChat. Babbel.com/NatsChat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Did you know that skincare can start in the laundry room? All Free Clear is the #1 laundry detergent brand recommended by dermatologists, allergists, and pediatricians for sensitive skin. All Free Clear is 100% free of dyes and perfumes. It provides an effective clean that's gentle on skin while removing impurities like dirt and body oil without leaving irritating residues. Plus, All Free Clear liquid is Safer Choice certified by the U.S. EPA. For a clean you can feel good about, all you need is All Free Clear.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
McCormick knows unbeatable flavor starts with the right spices. It's why we created Flavor Sealed. So anytime you peel back the seal of McCormick herbs and spices, you can be confident they will pack the same amount of flavor as the day they were packed. The kind of flavor that brings out the best of your favorite recipes and keeps everyone coming back for seconds, or maybe even thirds. McCormick, Flavor Sealed for unbeatable flavor.
And now the pitch, way inside of the backstop. Runner breaks for the plate. Sims late to cover, maybe. Throw to him, and the tag not in time. The runner late to break. Sims late to break. Then it looked like he was going to beat the runner, Pages. The throw and the tag not in time. The run scores on yet another wild pitch. And the Cardinals lead 8-0.
So the Nats in this 10-0 loss to the Cardinals on Friday evening. Bad offense, bad starting pitching, and oh yeah, bad relief pitching once again. We in this game had 3 Nats relievers combining to allow 6 runs, 5 earned in 5 innings, and we after the game got a bullpen move. But the nature of this latest bad bullpen game for the Nats is worth highlighting. 3 Nats relievers combined to allow 6 runs, 5 earned in 5 innings on 4 hits, 6 walks, a hit by pitch, and 2 wild pitches. The latest gory details. Jackson Rutledge, 2 runs in 3 innings. He in the top of the 5th allowed 2 runs, did then toss perfect 6th and 7th innings. Lucas Sims, he allowed 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Sims in the top of the 8th allowed 3 runs on 4 walks, including a bases-loaded walk, a run-scoring wild pitch, and a leadoff hit by pitch. Check this out. Sims in this outing threw 32 pitches, 12 strikes versus 20 balls. Having an equal number of strikes and balls is bad enough. Sims in this outing, 12 strikes, 20 balls. And the Nats, after the game, announced having requested unconditional release waivers on Sims, who, as of the end of this game for this regular season, 18 games, 12 1/3 innings, ERA of 13.86, whip of 227. And then our guy, Andrew Chafin, he allowed 1 run unearned in 1 1/3 innings. He, in the top of the 9th, allowed an unearned run off beginning the inning with back-to-back walks sandwiched around a wild pitch. If you are unfamiliar with the Nats bullpen struggles this season, I feel like this game in a lot of ways was the perfect microcosm because you had a whole lot of walks, you had a hit by pitch, you had 2 wild pitches, you had no home runs because the home run has not been an issue with this bullpen as we have discussed, but relievers, their inability to find the strike zone, such a problem for the Nats this season, that problem on full display in this game on Friday evening.
Yeah, so I don't want to get down on Rutledge. He had 3 straight hits to start his first inning, and then he retired 9 in a row after that and gave them some length that they needed. I'm not going to put this one in him. And Chafin, it's not a good look to come into a game that's already lopsided and walk your first 2 batters and uncork a wild pitch. It felt like everyone at that point is just playing out the string, including C.J. Abrams, who uncorked a terrible throw that allowed one of the other runs to score. So let's focus on Sims because obviously he is the news to come out of this game. He comes in, we've talked about this how many times already. He comes in and he hits the first batter that he faces. He's being put into a low leverage spot, down 6-0 in the 8th inning. This is the only kind of spot they were ready to use him in at this point after having previously been, the 6th inning high leverage guy. And what does he do? He hits the first batter. It was his 7th hit batter out of 65 total batters faced this season to that point. That is 10.7%. Think about that. More than 10% of the batters he faced as a member of the Nationals, not that he gave a hit to, not that he walked, that he hit with a pitch. It is unbelievable. Never seen anything like that. And then he follows it up with the 4 walks and a run-scoring wild pitch. You know how you can sometimes watch something unfold and know this is the end? You knew this was the end. And we had to wait about a half an hour after the game was over to get the news. But even before Davey came out to take the ball from him and he walks off to a chorus of boos from the crowd, even before that, you knew this is the end of the road. They did it with Colin Poche a week ago. The way this went in that situation, knowing all he needed to do is throw the ball over the plate, and he could not do that. This was the end of the road, and this is the Nationals now eating $3 million that they spent on him, and it's May 9th, and they're making that move that tells you just how bad he was, that they felt like they could not continue any longer.
Will be interesting to see what the corresponding roster move is. The Nats did not announce one on Friday night. Presumably we'll get that right on Saturday. Answer me this. Lucas Sims is second on the Nats in games in terms of the pitching staff for this regular season. Number 1 is Jose A. Ferrer, 19 games. Number 2 is Lucas Sims, 18 games. Now, with Ferrer, look, he has not been particularly good, but we get it. High upside. When he's good, he's great. And so him being number 1 is not ideal, but you can kind of sort of accept that. Why is Lucas Sims number 2? Like from a macro perspective, from a 30,000-foot perspective, to someone who doesn't follow the Nats, and we do follow the Nats, and I'm sort of perturbed by this. How and why is it that Lucas Sims, with his 13.6 ERA, is second on the team in terms of pitchers in games at 18? What would be your answer to why that is the case?
Well, the remarkable thing is that he was not pitching as much here lately. In the last couple of weeks, it was even more extreme, I would say, for the first month. And I would guess that boiled down to a couple of things. One is Kyle Finnegan's your best reliever. He's your closer. You're going to use him in the 9th inning with a lead or a tie game, and that's probably it. In fact, I noticed this the other day. He's made 15 appearances this year. The first one on opening day was a tie game in the 9th. Every other one since has been a save situation. So that's good that they've had those opportunities, but he hasn't pitched any other time besides that. As you mentioned, Ferrer gets a lot of them. I think Jorge Lopez probably should have been getting more, but he had a slow spring where he didn't pitch a lot, and I think they were easing him in a little bit more. And that probably led to a few more appearances for Sims as a fellow right-hander. And then I think really what it boils down to is this. Early in the year, and your starters are going 5, maybe 6, and they're in a lot of these games, either up 2, down 2, something like that. So who are your first men out of the bullpen? And very frequently we saw, depending on who they're facing, it's either going to be Poche against lefties or Sims against righties. And both of them failed spectacularly in that job. It was too soon to go to Lopez, Ferrer, Finnegan. The starters weren't going deep enough. So who's next on the depth chart? And because they did have experience as opposed to a Rutledge or a Henry, that's who it was. Now, did they go to the well too many times? Yeah, probably. They probably should have picked up on earlier. It's not working here. We need to move him to low leverage spots and use somebody else. But they did start doing that in the last week to 10 days, which tells you just how much he did pitch even prior to that.
Yeah, if you're doing a debrief on Lucas Sims' time with the Nats, I do think you have to ask that question of why did he get so many appearances when he was so bad? I'm not one of these people who puts the bulk of the bad bullpen on Davey Martinez. I do see a lot of this of like Davey Martinez is terrible at managing a bullpen, fire Davey. I don't subscribe to that. I think the bad bullpen is much more on Mike Rizzo than the bad bullpen is on Davey Martinez. But that doesn't mean that Davey Martinez is blameless. That doesn't mean that there aren't things that Davey can't be doing better. And I just do think that, again, from a macro perspective, like you look back on this and you say, boy, it should not be the case that a guy this bad got this many appearances, even though he was, with the team, for just a handful of weeks, ultimately, it ends up being. So we have gone from the Nats having not made any truly consequential bullpen transactions in terms of cutting people to now Colin Poche gone, Lucas Sims gone. You wonder if the patience finally is starting to wear thin here and if maybe more moves might be coming if these struggles continue.
Yeah, they also sent Eduardo Salazar down. So that's 3 really in the last week to 10 days they've done. We'll find out what they do on Saturday. As we've talked about, there really are not any exciting options at AAA. My guess is that Zach Brixey, who we saw for the one game doubleheader, he's already on the 40-man roster. My guess is he'll be the guy. They do now have a 40-man spot available to them if they want to promote somebody who's not currently on the 40-man, but again, look at the organizational depth chart. There's not much there. Maybe there's an Andrew Chafin style signing somewhere out there. I don't know who that would be. I don't think that's going to be tomorrow. Maybe we'll find out, within the next week as they go scouring for more. They've eaten some money here on Poche and Sims. I think from a bullpen standpoint, there's probably not a whole lot else to do there. I don't think they're giving up on Lopez or Ferrer at this point. The next question then starts to become, do they look to make moves on the offensive side of things? I know I get asked a lot of questions about Josh Bell. He's making $6 million. I don't see anything happening there at this stage. I think you have to at least give him the month of May to try to right his ship the way that he typically has in his career. But we did see him down in the order batting 7th, so that's maybe a little bit of a sign there. And then beyond that, you're talking about sending Dylan Cruz down or Jacob Young, something like that. The focus so far has been on the bullpen, which has clearly been their number one problem. If and when they solve that or make the moves they think can help address that, do they move into other directions? And the lineup would be probably next on that list.
Yeah, the Nats 7, 8, 9 batters in this game on Friday evening. Josh Bell, DH, Jacob Young, center fielder, Dylan Cruz, right fielder, each guy 0 for 3 with a strikeout. Game 2 for the Nats against the Cardinals Saturday afternoon at 4:05. Trevor Williams will be the Nats starting pitcher. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Table to Mat, which you can count on for all of your nutrition and personal training needs. Table to Mat offers virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. You can email Table to Mat directly through the website, tabletomat.com. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com. You could call Table to Mat 240-388-2206. You can hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website you could check out too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you could purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Needs this out. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Here he comes. Strike 3 called. Cutter at the belt over the outside. And Erick Fedde pulls another Houdini act out of the hat.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.